Councillor Callaghan to Councillor Tony Sargent. Councillor Callaghan, before we read that question.
I do apologise. What steps is the Cabinet member taking to address concerns amongst residents and businesses in Pittston North West over the air quality following the opening of the Coulthard Road waste plant?
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you. Is that working? No. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm assuming that Councillor Callaghan is referring to the Toby Mechanical Biological Treatment Plant in Coulthard Road, permission for which was granted in 2012 by Essex County Council under its Regulatory Waste Planning Authority powers. Activities at the Toby Eco Park is subject of a 28-year contract awarded to Urbasa Balfour Beatty by Essex County Council and Southend-on-Sea Borough Council. Ensuring good air quality is a shared responsibility, principally between DEFRA, the Environmental Agency, and local authorities. The environmental permitting system creates a single regulatory framework for pollution prevention and control from commercial processes. In the case of this waste processing plant, Basildon Council's Environmental Health Service has not been involved in dealing with complaints and atmospheric pollution because the Environment Agency monitor and regulate emissions released into the environment from industrial sites such as this plant. Intervention by the Borough Council would not be appropriate where it has no regulatory role. There are already means by which anyone can raise concerns about any impact the MBT plant has made on local air quality and ensuring that the risk of odour is being minimised. Contact can be made to UBB directly, perhaps via its community liaison group. Alternatively, problems can be reported to the Environment Agency. Incidentally, the Environment Agency has in the past produced a fact sheet, Urbasa Mechanical and Biological Treatment Facility Basildon, which explains their action to date as regulators of the plant, and this is available on their website.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. Councillor Callaghan for supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can assure Councillor Sargent that our officers have been involved in dealing with complaints because I've made them. Is the Cabinet member aware of the growing number of these complaints from businesses on the Burke Mills industrial estate who are seeing a build-up of acidic dust on their cars, their front doors, their windows from the plant? And is she as concerned as I am that given respiratory disease is the cause of the third highest number of admissions into primary and acute care in Basildon, the air quality in Pittston North West is demonstrably deteriorating even further?
Councillor Sargent.
The growing build-up of dust or civic dust, as the councillor has asked as a supplementary question, as I've already responded, Mr. Mayor, is the authority to deal with this is the Environment Agency and Essex County Council. Thank you.
Councillor Callaghan, second supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was an extraordinary response, really. The idea that our Environmental Health Department has absolutely no say and no justification for the air quality in our borough is alarming, to say the least. So can I invite the Cabinet member to initiate a meeting between residents, the plant that she outlines who has responsibility, Essex County Council, and our Environmental Health Department here at the Council, so that people who live and work close to the plant can hear what steps, or apparently lack of them, are being taken to address their concerns.
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Legislation has established clear lines of responsibility over those who are regulated and which agency is the regulator. Intervention by the Borough Council where it has no clear duties or responsibilities is unlikely to be helpful. And in any case, the Council has no spare resources to seek to resolve these issues as a third party, nor in the same way act as a self-appointed mediator. Nevertheless, Nevertheless, from informal discussions between our officers and the Environment Agency, it is understood that the Environment Agency has recently agreed with the company certain steps to improve compliance with the environment permit, and the EA officer agreed to keep the council updated on progress and any issues arising as the plant moves to full operation.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. Question 2 from Councillor Callaghan to Councillor Turner.
Yes, I'll read this one out. Give Councillor Callaghan a chance to get his breath back.
I think he's still writing supplementary.
I'm generous.
I'm writing an answer down for my next leaflet.
I'm generous to you. So, Councillor Callaghan very kindly asked, have any Basildon Borough Council projects had their future funding affected by Brexit? And I can tell him that after extensive studies that there's no direct impact the funding has had on our projects as a result of the EU referendum. But we go on to say that that situation is going to be monitored because as we go through negotiations, we just want to make sure that we are protected. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is the leader aware that the Chancellor of the Exchequer has announced that any funding that was secured from the EU as part of regeneration projects and the contracts are signed, if the contracts are signed before the autumn statement next month, they will be guaranteed to receive every penny of those funds by the UK government? Can he further assure the Council that money is committed from the EU for the St Martin's Town regeneration, because we know that money was committed from the EU, that has been secured and that it's been done well in advance of the autumn statement?
I'm only going to take his first question there because this is a supplementary. So be careful with what you choose. And the answer is, yeah, I'm aware of the Chancellor's response and very encouraged by it. I think for a Conservative run government to steadfastly stick by that funding is admirable. And I think anybody that heard that would take quite a lot of heart and heed from what's being said. And I have no doubt that this government will follow their pledges through.
Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The leader, like me, was a Romaniac who will know that we have a number of projects that we run as a council, from, as I say, redevelopment through to services for elderly and disabled people in our town that are in receipt of EU monies that will no longer be available when we leave the European Union. Has the leader had any indication from the government in the negotiations that it's had with them of exactly how much of the £350 million a week that UKIP promised residents in Basildon and beyond will be coming back to the UK and find its way into projects here in the Basildon Borough? In fact, if anybody in the room can answer that question, I'm happy to hear it from them.
The question is directed to Councillor Turner, so he's got the opportunity.
Well, isn't it interesting, Mr. Mayor, about this 350 million? You know, I'm sure if you totted it all up, Basildon might be due that 350 million, along with the health service and education and farmers. And the point was made that that 350 million was going to come back to, was going to be spent wisely. I think at the time it was all going to be put against the health service. And in any other situation where that was alleged in a referendum or perhaps in a local election, the Electoral Commission would perhaps investigate that and have a look at exactly what was being alleged, because you know, we certainly have a requirement in Basildon, and we would certainly stand up for our residents and argue that every penny of that funding should be spent on our residents. But then when you multiply that across the country, how much is that going to cost? Where's all that subsidy coming from? And all I would say is that I'm sure Nigel Farage laughs at himself in the mirror every morning. He wakes up and says, you know, the country bought that, how could they? And I actually said to the...
Said it.
Keep control of yourself, please.
A Tory.
I actually said to the news presenter on the night of the referendum about the lies that have been peddled by UKIP on the doorstep. On the doorstep, Mr. Mayor, about how immigration was the problem that we were all suffering for schools, housing.
I'm going to stop you because you're wandering from the supplementary question. I know the term Brexit gives you wide scope, but I think even you might be abusing it somewhat.
Really, Mr. Mayor, I'll bounce to your direction. Having said that, I think what we would all do for our community is look at that funding. Where we saw that being frittered away, we would have to stand up and support our community. And I know Councillor Callaghan will be shoulder to shoulder, thigh to thigh, with me, trying to get every penny that possibly could back into the coffers of this community.
Right, thank you very much. Question number 3 from Councillor David Burton-Sampson. Can I just say on this one, he seems to have adopted quite an innovative approach by indicating these 2 supplementaries in the main question, because the questions is in effect 3 questions. I'm not sure which one Councillor Sullivan is going to answer.
Councillor Sullivan.
David Burton-Sampson, you can read it now, I apologise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could the Cabinet Member for Resources please outline how the Council's electricity supply contract and tariff for communal lighting in properties across the borough is reviewed, when it was last reviewed, and what were the results?
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, in my view, these are in fact 3 questions, 3 distinct questions, but I will indulge Councillor Burton-Sampson on this occasion to answer all 3 of them. My response is that there is no formal review period. The last review of the current energy supply contracts completed in June 2014. The review highlighted that Crown Commercial Services, who are the Council's energy broker, employ a low-risk purchasing strategy through central government approved frameworks.
I'll give you the opportunity, Councillors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Does the Cabinet Member think the electricity standing charge and usage charge that residents are currently paying as part of their service charge in leasehold properties across the borough gives residents value for money?
Councillor Sullivan.
Yes, I think that's more of a housing question, Mr. Mayor. What I would add, all I could add myself in my capacity as the key driver of any review is to ensure value for money is achieved. And as and when we do review these things, that's what we look for. But other than that, I'm not at liberty or able to answer, I don't think, Mr. Mayor, with all respect.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That didn't really answer my question, but does he share my view, my concern that residents in Dewlands are paying excessive amounts for shared communal lighting in a 2-flat block of £170 for 3 communal lights, one of which has the bulb removed? This includes a standing charge of £140 per year and a £30 usage charge. Is he willing to support an investigation into these excessive charges?
Can I suggest, Councillor Sullivan, on your behalf, I think I would suggest an answer in writing to that and the previous question, because in reality it probably should have been directed at housing, like the supplementaries. And the first one was correctly directed to Councillor Sullivan, but you've now turned it onto a housing matter. And I think you get the answers in writing. Thank you. Question number 4, Councillor Vaughan to Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Leaded paint is banned in the UK. Is the Cabinet Member satisfied that there is no lead present in any painted surfaces on our play equipment in our parks, especially as damaged surfaces can be a danger to children?
Now that's a tough question. I am satisfied the Council has not used paints that contain lead for as long as lead paint has been banned in the United Kingdom. I am not able to confirm that older play equipment was not originally painted with lead-based paints prior to the lead content ban. It is, however, unlikely that play equipment that is old is still coated in the original paint.
Councillor Vaughan, supplementary.
I'm sure the Council is aware of a recent national report warning of the dangers of lead paint. If equipment paint has been worn or damaged, Are we checking retrospectively and are we checking imported equipment?
Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Yes, we do check, and if any person is aware of any problems that may result in health of park users being compromised, then they should report the matter immediately to Council's call centre, and the matter will be immediately inspected and, if dangerous, resolved.
Councillor Borg, another supplementary.
No, I haven't, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Question number 5, Councillor Ball to Councillor Terry Sargent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Whitford Independents welcome the recent literary posting campaign with the slogan "Don't be a tosser." Could you please explain who is enforcing this campaign and how?
Councillor Sargent. Raise yourself the mic.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, we're sharing. The Don't Be a Tosser campaign is an awareness-raising campaign to get the message out to the public. It's in partnership with businesses and other councils throughout Essex, including Essex County Council. The message is to try to get the note out to the public to stop the littering and let them know that they can need to be fined if they are actually caught. With regard to enforcing, as I've said, the campaign is there to stop the littering, to raise awareness. The enforcement activities are the usual activities that the council deal with under the Environmental Protection. Thank you.
Councillor Ball, supplementary.
How many employees or resource have we got enforcing this in the borough?
Councillor Sargent.
I think there are possibly about five enforcement officers. They're not just enforcing this; they're enforcing every part of our enforcement duties. So just because we raise a campaign or go into a campaign with our partners does not mean to say that we are going to employ enforcement officers during the campaign itself. We can only, as I've said, carry on with our normal enforcement activities and hope that members of the public will identify the offenders, and that way they can report them and then we can get the appropriate action taken.
Councillor Sargent, Councillor Ball, another supplementary.
Thank you. How many people have been caught tossing litter and how many have been fined?
Councillor Sargent.
In the last year.
I think it's in the last year.
Well, I don't think it's the last year because it's just the campaign, isn't it? It's the actual campaign. We don't know how many has been caught because this is not within the borough. Maybe not any. I mean, I might be able to get that information for you. I'm sure there's people that are still tossing litter, but they're still tossing their litter, but they're not being caught. But the idea is not to toss it, but to toss it on the floor, but to toss it in the bin. Thank you.
I won't ask you to repeat that. Question number 6, the Councillor Kerry Smith. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Funds are now being sought to pay for essential flood defences within the grounds of Basildon Hospital. If there is a genuine concern about flooding in this locality, what flood defences will be in place to protect the southern end of the Lee Chapel South and the new Wesley Green estates, respectively, Mr Mayor?
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With all due respect, the question would best be directed at Essex County Council as the lead local flood authority and as such has the legal responsibility for overseeing the management of local flood risk. The County Council works with different agencies, including Basildon Council, in developing and refining and implementing their local flood risk management strategy. The significance of the hospital washland is recognised within the South Essex Surface Water Management Plan for the Kingswood Dry Street critical drainage area. Similarly, the surface flooding risk to Lee Chapel South has already been assessed and in its statutory role, ECC looks to implement drainage improvements in association with new development and existing landowners to reduce the flood risk otherwise present in communities. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I feel the need to bring this up at the borough stage because Anglian Water, I understand, is coming forward with land in the vicinity of the new Wesley Green estates. And anyone who knows the topography of the area will know when we get any heavy rain, it flows in all direction of Wesley Heights, southwards to estates where the hospital is, streets such as Fletcher's, Arentry, Fold, and the respective streets in the new Wesley Green estate. And it's essential that how insurance companies like to rip off their, I would just get in there, Mr Mayor, like to rip off their customers. I feel it's essential, as we're a planning authority, that we give as much protection, especially with the local plan, to residents from rip-off insurance companies after a flooding.
Councillor Simon.
I'm not sure there's too much we can do on, like the Basildon Council can do on, you know, the insurers that you call that are ripping off the, you know, the people that are affected. But Councillor Moore is the Basildon represented on the Essex Flood Partnership Board, which was created to bring all stakeholders from local government, emergency services, water companies, environmental management, so they can contribute to a strategic overview of matters surrounding the flooding in Essex, which meets quarterly to contribute to key decisions on projects, strategies and funding communications. I would suggest that maybe Councillor Moore can bring this, the issue of insurance to that board, if it's the next partnership board, if it's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. Councillor Smith, you have another supplementary?
Just a very quick one. Might it be an idea, Mr Mayor, to leave the land, the Anglia water roads within the new Wesley Green estate as it is, in case of one tough winter of heavy rain?
Councillor Simon.
For its part, as the local planning authority, the Borough Council takes into account flooding concerns in developing local plans and ensures that planning decisions are properly informed by flooding issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 7 from Councillor Smith.
Thank you,
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. At school run times, the area around the entrance to the Lee Chapel South Primary School is mayhem due to the volume of parked cars. Many of these cars are parked illegally. With this being the case, Basildon Borough Council liaise with South Essex Parking Partnership to ensure the regular parking offenders get a parking ticket on a regular basis.
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. SEP have increased patrol since the start of the new school term, which has resulted in several vehicles being removed off double yellow lines and have issued 3 penalty notices to vehicles parked in the bus stop. SEP are aware of some difficulties with enforcement due to worn lines and signs. They are in the process of getting the signs and lines repaired and repainted, and this should help the problem. The council will also write to the head of the school to ask if a reminder letter can be sent to parents to remind them of the need to park appropriately to ensure the safety of all around the school.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, something does need to be done. We would get Councillor Terry Sargent like to get the spy car car to visit the school on a regular basis, because as soon as the traffic wardens turn up, the parents run into their cars, and it's a bit like watching Wildlife on One. 1 or 2 animals in the flock gets it, but the rest get away. And the spy car's the best way of nabbing them all.
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, the spy car was the best way of nabbing all these cars, but unfortunately double yellow lights come into play, and we are no longer able to send the smart car out. That put a complete stop to it. So therefore, all we can do is our usual duties. I have spoken to Nick Binder from, who's the manager of the South Essex Parking Partnership, and he's assured me that regular parking offenders will get a parking ticket on a regular basis, and they are taking up some more patrols in that area. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. And in my campaign to try and make the area safer in that locality, I'm trying to get a 20-mile-an-hour zone that starts and operates when there's children that enter and leave the school each day. The local highways panel I am lobbying as a county councillor is looking for every excuse to veto it because they'd rather the money was spent on one of their pet projects, say another sign on Road 13, telling people the obvious about the Dartford crossing. So therefore, Mr Mayor, would the Cabinet Member, Councillor Terry Sargent, like to give the full support I need to take on the local highways panel to make sure there's a 20-mile-an-hour zone at this school to protect the children? Thank you.
Is this going to be a yes, no answer?
Hopefully.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Currently, I have been trying to, during my role on the SEP partnership, I've been trying to create some links with the local highways panel. And if we already had those links, I really would like to throw my whole weight behind it. But unfortunately, at the moment, we haven't got, those links are not set up. But I do believe we are looking to try to get some representation on the local highways panel from Basildon, so that we can start to put our views across. But I totally understand the need for the 20 mile an hour, but unfortunately I think it's sometimes when they're consulting on the transport plan, where we all try to get the MPH reductions put in. I totally understand Councillor Smith, his request, and there's not much I can do at the current moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. Question number 8 from Councillor Fellows to Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Would Councillor Sargent please explain to us what is the expected service level response from the Council following the reporting of toxic waste in the community, specifically asbestos but not exclusively?
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Toxic waste issues can be many and various, but I understand that Councillor Fellows is particularly concerned about fly-tipped asbestos sheeting. Responsibilities and procedures to be followed would differ depending on whatever the deposit is, either on public or privately owned land. However, commonly an officer would first visit the site to assess the problem. Details would be taken of the exact location of the waste material and the amount involved, and any information available from witnesses, e.g. the fly tipper's vehicle, the registration details will be taken. The potential health risk from inhaling asbestos fibres is heavily influenced by the type and composition of asbestos in the product, its condition and how it is bonded within the material. For example, corrugated asbestos cement sheet will most probably contain chrysotile white asbestos, which has an asbestos content of between 10 to 15%, which in good condition and not being abraded will not release dangerous quantities of fibres to anything like the Stamex scent as friable. Crocodilite, excuse me, Chairman, blue asbestos, that means, contained in loose piping and lagging. Should significant quantities of fibrous asbestos be found, the Environment Agency would be informed. Small quantities of asbestos cement sheets would not warrant notification. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. Councillor Fellows, for a supplementary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Didn't quite get a full detailed response for service level there. I was looking for X hours or X days to go on site and then X days to remove it. But going on to a specific situation in the Nethermain ward, and the significant thing is this was in the summer holiday when there was children going about their fun. There was a 1 ton bag of what looked to everybody to be broken asbestos sheets dumped in a service road between numbers 334 and 336 Great Gregory. A resident raised a ticket on the 17th of August. Many of us supported her by raising tickets, and in fact I called the help desk and made them aware that of the closeness to the play area where the swings and the park, and that weighs, I won't go into full details of the ticket.
Question, please,
Yes,
Councillor Fellows.
I'm going to.
No, I want it now, please.
I'll give it, Mr. Mayor. That bag was removed on the 25th of August, so does the Council Sergeant believe that is an adequately fast response to remove such a danger?
Mr. Sergeant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My apologies on the timescales, the 2.5 working days. I would like to take this incident up with the help desk on behalf of Councillor Fellows, because if it's gone over that timescale, then no, that's not right. And if it was near a play area, so if you could allow me to investigate that on his behalf, then I'll come back and get a answer for you, if that's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Sergeant. You have another supplementary?
A very quick one, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you for that response. That's very heartening. But would the Cabinet member please ensure that we do have a robust, fast-track method, and she seemed to have indicated that we do have that, but it's not being carried out, for A, the investigation, and B, the removal of such dangerous substances.
Thank you. Councillor Sergeant.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will look into the practicing methods that we've got, and if they're not adequate, then we'll ask why and try to improve them.
That is the end of question time for my members.